So I guess I'll just go through all the matchups and rate them on difficulty and maybe talk about them a little bit. So Amumu, I would say Amumu is actually kind of difficult, I would even say. The thing is that nobody's playing Amumu, so it's kind of hard to say. I haven't played that matchup enough, but it definitely, like, he has a lot of CC, of course, so that alone is quite good against Ekko. And tank Amumu, yeah, I will be uploading it on YouTube as well, of course. Tank Amumu is definitely hard to kill, and he can, like, you can never 1v1 him, basically. So I think it's actually a difficult matchup, but in general, Amumu jungle is just not very good, so... Yeah, I don't want to put in even, though, because even to me means that it's like a matchup where you just need to play a little bit better and... Or, well, it's like a tank matchup where you're never solo killing, but you can out impact him, you know? I guess that's how it is. That's how you should think of it. For example, Bel'Veth, I would say, is even. This is the second jungler here? Yeah. Well, Bel'Veth is even. It's one of those champs where you just need to understand how to play against her. For example, I saw earlier in a serious stream that, like, people were complaining about that matchup, but you just need to not throw your passive proc into her E, right, when she has the damage reduction. Of course, if she's fed and if she's getting to late game, she will be unkillable at some point. She can build good defensive items, but overall, I would say it's a very even matchup. She's quite weak early. You can punish her. Yeah. Who's next? Chokov is not a jungler. I mean, Darius is actually kind of a jungler, but nobody ever plays him. So yeah. Diana, I would also say even. People say it's a really hard matchup, but I think it's pretty even. Like, she gets outscaled by you. She definitely has some 1v1 potential in the early mid game for sure, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those matchups where you also shouldn't really look to solo kill her a lot, but as long as it's not tank Diana, you can shut her down if you're ahead for sure. Mundo, I don't know, should I even rate Mundo? Because Mundo is... nobody's really playing him. I think I'm just not gonna rate him. I would say Mundo is also, again, one of those champs. You can never kill a Mundo. Like, Mundo is one of the best champs against them, against AP champs, but at the same time, you can also usually ignore him. And just... right, like, he can't really peel his team well, for example. Mundo is just one of the worst tanks. Elise matchup... I would say it's difficult early for sure, but it gets easy. Or yeah, it actually gets easy. So overall, I would also just put it in even. You know, it's definitely a skill, one of the biggest skill matchups, I would say. In my opinion, Eve, easy. Like, the biggest thing for me with Eve is that you can build mercs. Well, she can't, so it just helps. And she's super squishy. You know, like. Of course, if she's really fat, then it's gonna be a problem, but the same thing is like the other way around, you know? And she has a very hard time to kill you if you have mercs, because her W doesn't last a super long time. And of course, your ult basically makes you unkillable to her most of the time. Fiddle, I would say, I haven't played against good Fiddles. I would say it's actually a difficult matchup. Like, a good Fiddles can really fuck you up. Especially, of course, because of the point and click CC, and also just if Fiddle players are good, like, that champ can really 1v9 games. But I haven't seen a good Fiddle in a long time. Wait, where the fuck did you delete that message? Who's next? Who's next? Gragas. I mean, I actually haven't played against a lot of Gragas jungle, but in the current meta, I would almost put him in unplayable tier. Because just Gragas being super OP. Yeah, let's actually put him there. But nobody's playing Gragas in my elo at the moment, so... Yeah, overall, if Gragas wasn't super OP, I would say it's more of a difficult, maybe even, but although Gragas is kind of good against Ekko, he has a lot of easy CC. So, yeah, I think at the moment he's actually unplayable just because Gragas is dumb as fuck. Graves, definitely a difficult matchup. If the Graves is good again, and he really knows his invade timings, and that's a good Graves can really abuse you and bully you very hard. So But at the same time, he doesn't have any CC, so again, you can kind of ignore him oftentimes and win the game by just focusing the important carries besides him. But of course, if he becomes a carry himself, then it's a problem. Gwen, I mean, Gwen is not really a jungler. Hecarim, I don't want to say unplayable, but if there's any matchup that is unplayable, I would say it's Hecarim as well. Well, unplayable is such a hard word, you know, but Hecarim is really like 1-to-1 is like every Hecarim just he beats you at any stage in the game basically, unless you're really ahead. And Hecarim is one of those champs where you don't really need to even know how to jungle. So yeah, like a lot of bad players can abuse Hecarim as well. Ivern, I think Ivern is difficult. I just played against Ivern for the first time in a long time, but I think Ivern is not an easy matchup. He can really disable you so hard. It's so annoying. In some games against good Iverns, you're just not gonna manage to get any kills because he will just permanently queue you for a long time and that stuff. It's and Ivern is not a squishy champ is the biggest problem as well. Like he can just tank you for such a long time and make everyone unkillable and makes it very hard to snowball games. Jarvan in the current form unplayable just because he's super overpowered. Otherwise, I would say difficult. Maybe if he's in a spot where he's not super strong, maybe even just even tier. Like it's a matchup where if you dodge his EQ and he doesn't just simply one-shot you with his ult because he's super overpowered, then it's honestly fine. But yeah, at the moment his strength is just too big, honestly, way too big. And the items he can build, of course, as well, right? Like Maw. A lot of matchups are really decided by if the champ is able to build Maw or not. Who's next? Karthus. I think Karthus in general is easy. He has no CC, he's super squishy, you can often farm kills in him. Of course, if you let the game go on for too long, it's gonna become difficult. But other than that, I think it's one of the easier matchups for sure. Kayn, I mean, okay, normal Kayn, we don't need to rate. Red Kayn, I think honestly both Kayns are kind of unplayable, at least in the current state. If I would have to rank, I think Red Kayn is generally feels worse to play against because he just tanks so much and is still able to one-shot you, but Blue Kayn I think at the moment is actually stronger, and Blue Kayn can also build such good items. You know, he can build Serpent's Fang, which is super good against Ekko. He can build Edge of Night, which makes him basically unkillable. And there's quite a lot of champs in unplayable. Maybe I might move some of them down. I feel like let's put Hecarim in difficult and Gragas as well. Especially because I think Gragas is stronger in top and mid, honestly, than in jungle at the moment. And Kayn, yeah, I think Kayn is, for me personally, unplayable. For example, I think Ekko the Nico puts him in like probably even tier or something. It's just people have different experiences. It's also something you need to think about. Kha'Zix is the champ I've struggled by far the most against this season. I have like 28% win rate or something in 7 games. I'm still gonna put him in difficult tier, mostly because he doesn't have CC, and it usually had just happened because they managed to get ahead early. This is one of those matchups that really gets decided very hard by who gets ahead early. And he can also build very annoying items like Edge of Night. Kha'Zix usually doesn't build Serpent's Fang, but Edge of Night is definitely making it very difficult to shut him down. I would say Kindred matchup in the current meta is even. Like, I don't know, Kindred is just not that strong at the moment that she can really invade you and punish you super hard. Lee Sin, I don't know. Like, in my experience, because I haven't played against good Lee Sins apparently, but like for me it's an even matchup, honestly. I know, for example, Ekko the Nico, I think it's his only unplayable matchup, where he says it's unplayable, Lee Sin, but for me, I don't know, that champ doesn't even have that much that he can do against Ekko. Like, if you dodge his Q and you space him well, he's actually not that scary. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, The one thing Lee Sin can do really well is, of course, first of all, he can build more, and he can also ult you if you're like at half HP and then Q you, and you basically can't do anything about it. But maybe I should put him in difficult though. If I put these champs in difficult, actually, I'm gonna put Fiddle in even, because I personally haven't really struggled against Fiddle recently. I think Fiddle is only difficult if Fiddle is in a very strong spot, which I'm not even sure if he is at the moment, but I haven't seen a problematic Fiddle in a long time. I would say Lillia is just kind of a weak champ at the moment. She can be really, really annoying when she's strong. I would say at the moment she's definitely easy though. I don't even know if there's any can't lose matchups, to be honest, but wait, who's next? Is Maokai still a jungler? Yeah, right? I feel like Maokai, since he's gotten nerfed, is also around even, I would say. Hecarim is difficult because Hecarim just wins at any stage in the game against Ekko, basically. And he can build stupid items like Ma. Is Mordekaiser a jungle? I would say, yeah. Honestly, Mordekaiser is easy, because Mordekaiser is pretty useless jungle. Like, Mordekaiser, you just need to kite, you know, and he's not good enough to have an impact in most games as a jungler, so if we even rate him as a jungler, I would say it's an easy matchup. It's easy to ignore him, and yeah, the only thing you need to be careful of is just don't make the mistake of fighting him, right, and thinking that you can beat him in his ult. Who's next? Nidalee. I would say, like, in my personal experience, Nidalee's almost can't lose tier, but it's definitely because I haven't played against good Nidalee. So I think if it's good Nidalee, it's probably an even matchup. So, well, I'm personally gonna put it into easy. Nidalee is like a very squishy champ. She doesn't have any CC. She doesn't have super annoying stuff in her kit that makes her unkillable. Of course, she can build Zhonya's in that, but yeah, you also really outscale Nidalee. Like, Nidalee doesn't scale well in how do you say? Like, the champ actually just doesn't scale well, but it's also so difficult to play her well in the late game, right? So that makes her scale even less. It's super difficult. Nocturne, between difficult and even, honestly, it's also very dependent on his strength and the item build that he goes. And also, I think one thing that makes Nocturne just kind of difficult is honestly the fact that it's kind of hard to play in the late game sometimes against his ult. Just really difficult to pick off the important targets when you can't see shit. Yi is also champ. I think Yi is actually... I mean, Yi is just such a stat checker champ, you know, it really depends on his strength. I think in general it can definitely be difficult or even unplayable tier if he's really strong. I think at the moment it's more around even. But I honestly haven't played against Yi in probably 300 games, so my opinion might be wrong. Who's next? Nunu. I think Nunu... It really depends. I think tank Nunu is kind of difficult to play against, actually. If it's AP Nunu, it's probably even. Nunu is also one of those champs. I feel like if your lanes manage to not die to him early, he's quite useless. But of course, in most games, he will get kills early, so then the games can become difficult. And I also haven't played against good Nunus, probably. So I think good Nunus can also be really annoying because they have a lot of CC, of course. I would still put it in even in my personal experience. Is Olaf still a jungler? Like, nobody plays Olaf, right? In the jungle. I would say generally kit-wise though, the champ is actually difficult to deal with because you can't CC him, he can just run you down, you can build full tank and still just run you down. Or like very tanky at least. So yeah, I would say it's also difficult. Pantheon, I think Pantheon is actually a very viable jungler. I would say it's even though. I mean, Pantheon 1v1 is actually kind of good against Ekko because he can of course block he can block a lot of damage, like your passive proc with his E, and then you basically can't kill him. And also Pantheon is just generally pretty strong at the moment, but yeah, I don't know. overall he's not the strongest jungler, I guess. I think on lane he's much stronger. Poppy, I mean Poppy's also not really a jungler. I would put her in even. I don't even know why I made the can't lose here. I feel like there's no jungler that's gonna go in there. If anything, like in my personal experience, I would probably put these two in there, but I know that some people struggle in those matchups, so... Who's next? Qiyana. Is Qiyana still a jungler as well? I mean, Qiyana's actually really strong in general at the moment, so... But I think overall it's a pretty easy matchup, also because Qiyana's not a very easy champ to play, especially in the jungle. But I think if Qiyana was a stronger jungler, she could even become difficult. Is Rammus next? You're right. I think Rammus actually easy. Because the thing is, Rammus one of those champs, like, he will never really focus you, because there's an ADC in your game most of the time. So, yeah, I mean, it's usually easy to ignore him. And also, Rammus is not the biggest MR stacker as well, right? What the fuck? Okay, thank god it didn't reset. Yeah, I think Rammus a champ you can easily ignore most of the time. Who's next? Rengar? No, Rek'Sai. I think Rek'Sai, good Rek'Sai, actually unplayable. But at the moment, also I think at the moment Rex is not the strongest jungler. I would put her in difficult, but if Rex is in a strong spot, it's definitely unplayable tier. For sure. Rengar, for example, is a matchup where I was super surprised. I think Ekko then you could put it in like medium tier, whatever. I think I'm personally struggling quite a lot with Rengar, although ever since I started building Zhonya's, I think the matchup is definitely not as difficult as I had experienced it before, to be honest. Like, it's not... It might not even be difficult tier. It might be like even tier. And also it's one of those matchups that's also very decided by who gets ahead early. And he can't really build those annoying items like... Or usually they don't build annoying items like Edge of Night and whatever that Kha'Zix does. So I think that's why the matchup is actually a bit easier than Rengar. Than Kha'Zix. Seju, I think Seju's honestly easy. It's one of those matchups where you just mostly ignore her. She can't really kill you. Of course, okay, I mean she has a lot of CC. That champ alone forces you to build mercs. I guess that alone makes her more in towards the even tier, I would say. Because if you're forced to build mercs, of course it just takes away some of your offensive power, but overall, I think a lot of low elo players struggle in these kind of matchups because, of course, they have a lot of CC and whatever, but what you need to realize is that it's so easy to kite these champs. You just keep them at range with your Q and they basically will never be able to hit you, at least in my experience. Rumble is not a real jungler. I would say Rumble, let's say he's can't lose. If you ever play against Rumble jungle, you should win. Shaco, easy matchup, honestly. Also one where low elo players struggle, but I feel like that's mostly a mental block. Shaco has no CC. He's just generally not very strong at the moment. And yes, like good Shakos, they can really be annoying, especially if it's AP Shaco with the boxes. I mean, the boxes can definitely make the game harder, but not necessarily the matchup, you know? Like, if the Shaco has very good box placement, they can definitely make you miss out on a lot of kills, but I haven't experienced that in a long time, so... Shyvana, easy matchup, mostly due to the fact that Shyvana is super bad at the moment. It's just a champ, like, she has one mode that like, one thing she can do in games, and that's clear objectives, basically, and that's it at the moment. So, yeah, and I think if she would be stronger, she would still only be even. Just not a very strong champ against Ekko. Sylas. I think Sylas jungle is actually also easy. I mean, Sylas jungle is super dependent on if he gets fed early or not, of course. Yeah, this is Ekko jungle matchups. I think Sylas jungle is actually kind of weak. Of course, if he gets fed, then it can be problematic, but Sylas jungle is also usually squishier than Sylas mid because he doesn't build Rod of Ages, I think. I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, I think it's actually a pretty easy matchup, and I think you can even abuse him early if you path correctly. It's one of those matchups where you can probably go for like a three camp invade because he drops quite low in the jungle. Of course, you need info for that. Who's next? Skarner. I haven't seen Skarner in a long time. I almost can't say anything about it. I would say it's probably even tier because he obviously has point to click CC and whatever, but it's the same that you can usually just keep him at range. Yeah, I think Rumble is can't lose to because Rumble jungle just kind of sucks at the moment, and he has an OCC, nothing, you know. Talia I would say is also easy. I probably shouldn't have made can't lose here because can't lose and easy is just kind of obviously you can lose every game. Yeah, but Talia, I mean, I always used to think that Talia is kind of difficult to play against, but the thing I realized is that if you just E onto her, she can never react with her E, basically, you know? So you can just E onto her, she will E and it won't help her, is the thing. Talon, I think Talon, it used to be so difficult, but I think they nerfed his base some more at some point. So nowadays he feels much more killable. It's like I used to remember last season, I think when Talon was meta for some time, he was so unkillable every time you faced him, simply because he had a lot of base MR. I think good talents are still gonna be difficult here though, because you can also build stuff like Maw and that. But I haven't played against Talon jungler in quite a long time. Is Taric a jungler? I'm not sure. I mean, there's obviously like Taric one tricks, but I've played against Taric jungle maybe once in my life, so I can't really say anything about it. I think Trundle, same as basically all these other tanks, you usually just try to keep him at range, not really interact too much with him. I recently got invaded by a Trundle early, and then he just fell off at some point, of course. So, I think in general Trundle just sucks as a champ at the moment. Who's next? Tryndamere is not a real jungler. Twitch neither. Udyr, I think Udyr is like... It's actually not that difficult. I thought it would be more difficult. I think Udyr is also just not super strong, although I think I hear people saying that he is super strong. I just never see him. It's kind of hard to judge it because I have not played against Udyr more than like twice this season, I feel like. I think in general it can be quite the difficult matchup because Udyr is super hard to kill oftentimes and can still kill you. But it's also similar to these kind of champs where you can usually keep him at range. I think it's still a little bit more difficult than the others. He's usually harder to kill, in my experience at least. Viego. Like, I personally pick Viego against Ekko when Ekko gets picked. I think Viego is pretty good against Ekko. Most people just can't play him. But I wouldn't put him in unplayability. But he can also build good items like Wit's End and that stuff, you know? So he's definitely... He can definitely be considered difficult for sure, I would say. Like, in my personal experience, when I play Viego, I usually win against Ekko. But also when I play Ekko, I often win against Viego, so I guess it's just a skill matchup. Vi, I think, is borderline unplayable at the moment. Because she can also build, like, full AD Vi is a thing at the moment, and she's just kind of unfair to play against. But I'm not sure. I mean, Vi got nerfed, right? So let's put her in difficult, but that Eclipse Vi build is super annoying to deal with. Like, she's very hard to shut down. Her passive shields and whatever make her hard to kill, and she can genuinely one-shot you. I don't even know. Does the ult cooldown get reset when you ult? I'm not sure. Well, like when she ults you and you ult, does it get reset? I wasn't sure. So someone that I coach actually asked about that, or like he said that he also struggled in that matchup. I think it's definitely not an easy matchup at the moment. Volibear I haven't played in a longest time. I would even say it's easy though. Like Volibear is... Usually Volibear just goes kind of a not super tanky build, at least in the past few seasons, so... He's one of those tanks that is actually quite easy to shut down, and also like if he runs at you with his Q, you just Q him, and if he doesn't have flash, then he will just never catch you. I would say it's definitely one of the easier tank matchups. Warwick also easy. Classic, like that's like I've heard probably the champ that I've heard the most that low elo players are struggling against is Warwick. But it's just because they think they need to auto attack him or whatever, but that's just not how you play against Warwick, you know. You need to keep him at range, Q him, get 2 stacks on him, then proc your passive with E and nothing more. You never stay on him and then it's gonna be fine. That champ can't really hurt you if you play correctly. Wukong, I think before the nerfs, unplayable, mostly because it was just so easy to have an impact with Wukong. Now I would still say around difficult. Just because Wukong is also champ, he can build very good items against you, and you can basically never 1v1 him because of that. And he still kills you so easily. Xin, I see Xin so much in streams where they completely pop off, but I haven't played against one myself in a long time, so it's kind of hard to say, but I would actually assume that it's also a difficult matchup if the Xin is actually good. He can also build very good items. You notice, right? A lot of these AD junglers are here simply because they're allowed to build more, of course. So, yeah. And then some of them, like Viego, for example, are even allowed to build Wit's End, so, or Nocturne. That just makes the matchup automatically a bit more difficult. I would say Zac is actually one of the more difficult tank matchups as well. You can, of course, dodge his abilities and whatever, but he has so much CC, and like good Zacs, when they have good timings to interrupt you before you want to ult and that kind of stuff, they can really do quite a lot against you. And obviously Zac is also a champ that can have a lot of impact on lanes and that stuff, so yeah, I would say it's one of the more difficult tank matchups. Is there any other jungle? I mean, I haven't played against that jungle. I would say that is almost can't lose tier. I guess at the moment it's can't lose tier because he's just not very good in the jungle. I think that's all of them, right? We're not counting these as junglers. Did I miss anyone? Sion is also not really a jungle. Yeah, I think that's all of them. I think, yeah, I don't know, there's not really... I mean, Kayn without a form, yeah. Kayn without a form is also actually quite difficult, to be honest. But obviously doesn't make any sense to rate him. I mean, if Twitch was a jungler, it would also be can't lose tier. Like, Twitch is just super easy to farm. Of course, he can be super annoying and like kill your lanes and whatever, but he has no CC, he's super squishy the whole game, and you just farm him most of the time. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna upload this video to YouTube for sure, so of course if you have different opinions and whatever, you can let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this kind of content, of course leave a like, and yeah, have a nice day.